It's your buddy Drew with Living History's Mysteries and Ferocious Feline Productions. Welcome back to our month-long dive into the Norse culture, the religion, their beliefs, their uniqueness. The more we dive into the culture of the Northmen, the more things we find out that not a lot of people knew. And a lot of these things are still being argued by historians and scientists today. When we sit down and watch movies about the Vikings, we see these huge muscular warriors, berserkers, kings that lead these expeditions, lead these fights. But what about the women? Were there really warrior women, shield maidens? Or is it just a myth? Today we're going to take a look at just that. And hopefully by the end of this, we have the answer. Check this out. This is good.
What if everything you thought you knew about Viking warriors was only half the story? What if the fiercest fighters weren't men, but women? Shield maidens, legendary warrior women of the Norse world. But were they real, or just myths spun by skalds and poets? Today, we dive into the blurred lines between history and legend to uncover the truth about Viking warrior women. The Vikings, fierce, seafaring warriors who struck fear into the hearts of medieval Europe. Their society was built on strength, exploration, and conquest. But while men dominated the sagas, women held power in their own right, running farms, trading, and even influencing politics. Yet, the idea of women as warriors challenges everything we think we know about the Vikings. Enter the shield maidens, women who fought alongside men, wielding axes, swords, and shields. These warrior women appear in Norse sagas, epic tales of heroism and adventure. But were these stories based on real women, or were they just symbolic figures of strength and courage? The sagas tell of Lagertha, the legendary shield maiden who fought alongside Ragnar Lothbrok, and Hervair, who defied tradition to avenge her father, wielding a cursed sword. These tales are thrilling, but they leave us with a burning question: were shield maidens real? To answer that, we must turn to archaeology, where the lines between myth and history begin to blur. In 2017, a groundbreaking discovery shocked the world and reignited the debate. The Birka grave, a high-status Viking warrior's burial, was revealed to belong to a woman. Was this woman a shield maiden, or something else entirely? Norse sagas are filled with tales of shield maidens, women who defied tradition to become warriors. These stories were passed down through generations, blending history with myth. One of the most famous shield maidens is Lagertha, the legendary wife of Ragnar Lothbrok. According to the sagas, she fought bravely in battle, earning her place as a ruler and warrior. Then there's Hervair, who ventured into the underworld to claim her father's cursed sword, turfing. These women were not just fighters, they were symbols of courage and defiance. But were these stories based on real women, or were they exaggerated over time? Some historians argue that shield maidens were purely mythical, created to inspire and entertain. Others believe these tales were rooted in truth, reflecting the occasional reality of warrior women. The sagas also describe women like Freydis, who led expeditions to Vinland and fought off attackers. These accounts suggest that women could, and did, take on roles beyond the domestic sphere. But without physical evidence, the debate remains unresolved. That is, until a groundbreaking discovery in 2017 changed everything. The Birka grave, a high-status Viking warrior's burial, was revealed to belong to a woman. This discovery reignited the debate. Were shield maidens real, or was this woman an exception? In 2017, archaeologists made a stunning announcement. The remains of a high-status Viking warrior were female. The grave, known as BJ 581, was discovered in Birka, Sweden, a major Viking trading hub. It contained a sword, an axe, arrows, and 2 horses, clear signs of a warrior's burial. For over a century, it was assumed the warrior was male, until DNA analysis proved otherwise. This discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Could this woman have been a shield maiden, or was her role something else entirely? Skeptics argue that the weapons might have been symbolic, not practical. They suggest she could have been a leader or strategist, not a frontline fighter. But supporters point to the sheer number of weapons and the strategic placement in the grave. They argue that this woman was indeed a warrior, challenging our understanding of Viking society. The Birka warrior isn't alone. Other female graves with weapons have been found across Scandinavia. These findings suggest that women in the Viking world could, and did, take up arms. But the debate continues. Were these women warriors, or were they buried with weapons for other reasons? The truth may lie somewhere in between, a blend of history and myth. The Birka discovery reminds us that history is never as simple as it seems. Not everyone is convinced that the Birka warrior was a shield maiden. Skeptics argue that the presence of weapons doesn't necessarily mean she was a warrior. They suggest the weapons could have been heirlooms or symbols of status. In Viking society, weapons were often buried with individuals to signify their rank, not their role. Some historians believe the Birka woman could have been a strategist or leader, not a fighter. They point to the fact that leadership in Viking society wasn't always tied to physical combat. Others argue that the grave's interpretation may have been influenced by modern biases. Could our desire for gender equality in history be shaping how we interpret the past? The Birka warrior's DNA was also fragmented, leading some to question the accuracy of the analysis. Critics argue that contamination or errors in testing could have skewed the results. Despite these doubts, the Birka discovery remains a landmark in Viking archaeology. It challenges us to rethink our assumptions about gender roles in the past. But the debate is far from over, and the truth may be more complex than we imagine. To find answers, we must look beyond Birka and examine other archaeological clues. What do these other discoveries tell us about the role of women in Viking society? The Birka warrior isn't the only female burial with weapons found in Scandinavia. In Norway, a grave was discovered containing a woman buried with a sword, shield, and spear. Another burial in Denmark revealed a woman buried with an axe and arrows. These graves suggest that women in the Viking world could, and did, take up arms. But were these women warriors, or were they buried with weapons for symbolic reasons? Some scholars argue that weapons in female graves could represent protection in the afterlife. Others believe these women may have been ritual specialists or spiritual leaders. The presence of weapons doesn't always mean combat. It could signify power, authority, or even mythology. In some cases, women were buried with tools and weapons that defied traditional gender roles. These burials challenged the idea that Viking society was strictly divided by gender. They suggest that women could hold multiple roles: warrior, trader, mother, and leader. But the evidence is still fragmentary, leaving room for interpretation. The blurred lines between myth and history make it difficult to draw definitive conclusions. Yet, these discoveries remind us that the past is often more complex than we imagine. They challenge us to rethink our assumptions and explore the untold stories of history. The line between myth and history is often blurred, especially in Viking culture. Norse sagas were not just histories. They were epic tales meant to inspire and entertain. These stories were passed down orally for generations before being written down. As a result, facts became intertwined with fantasy, making it hard to separate truth from legend. Shield maidens, for example, may have been based on real women, but their stories were likely exaggerated. The sagas often used warrior women as symbols of courage, defiance, and the supernatural. But does that mean they were entirely fictional? Not necessarily. Archaeology shows that women in Viking society could hold power and influence. They could be traders, settlers, and even leaders, roles that required strength and resilience. The idea of women as warriors fits within this broader context of female empowerment. Yet, the sagas also reflect the values and beliefs of the time, not just historical facts. They were shaped by the skalds who told them and the audiences who listened. This makes it difficult to know how much of the Shield Maiden legend is rooted in reality. But perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, a blend of history and myth. The Shield Maidens remind us that history is not just about facts, it's about the stories we choose to tell. The mystery of Viking warrior women, Shield Maidens, remains unsolved, caught between history and myth. The sagas tell thrilling tales, but archaeology offers only fragments of the truth. The Burka warrior and other female graves challenge our assumptions about gender roles in Viking society. Yet, the blurred lines between fact and fiction remind us that history is rarely black and white. Perhaps Shield Maidens were rare, but their existence speaks to the complexity of the past. In the end, the legend of the Shield Maiden endures, inspiring us to keep questioning and exploring. Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating stories.
Welcome back. You know, it's like I was saying in the beginning, when we watch these movies about Vikings, we see these masterful warriors, these big, strapping men with long hair, or the Viking cut, carrying their axes, their swords, their shields into battle. And stories would have you believe that the women stayed back home, tended to the children, the farms, the trading, but didn't play much more of a role. Then when you get into TV shows like Vikings, you see these warrior maidens, these amazing female fighters who stood with the men, who swung an axe or a sword or a spear and ran into battle. Did they really exist? Even with the evidence Historians will lead you to believe they didn't. But DNA evidence, what they find in the graves, the epic sagas, they tell a different story. Were the sagas, were the oral traditions just stories? Were they made up? This is where the board split. A lot of people say yes, they were just made up. They were a fishtail. And a lot of people will tell you, no. Every story is steeped in fact. What do you believe? Let us know in the comment section below your feelings on warrior women, shield maidens in the Nordic traditions. Hope you guys had a chance to enjoy this month so far, and don't forget, here in just a couple days, I will be doing security again for my 6th year at the Niles Renaissance Fair in Niles, Michigan at Plym Park this coming Saturday and Sunday. It's not expensive to get in, and I can guarantee it's a show you're never going to forget. We have great performers. We have awesome vendors. We have great craftsmen and awesome food. So if you're not busy this weekend, May 17th and 18th, Saturday and Sunday, and you live in the Michiana area, or you just want to throw the family in the car, go for a little ride, and try something different, come out and see us at the Niles Renaissance Fair at Plym Park in Niles, Michigan. Stay for the day, stay for 2. You won't be disappointed. But that's all we got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this look at shield maidens, warrior women in the Nordic traditions. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God bless you, God love you, we do. And we'll see you out there.